Hey everyone, welcome to This Week in Real Estate with broker owner Conrad Zurini, REMAX Escarpment, and owner. What's your title, Brian? Owner, CEO, everything,
All the
president?
above. I just work on John Street. That's it. Just John
Mission 35
Street. Yeah, Mission
Mortgages.
35 Mortgages. Yeah,
But you
Wears
got a
every
sprawling
single hat.
empire, though.
yeah.
Like this guy goes from Fort Erie all the way to Oakville. Like he's got offices everywhere. So he's a regional broker, man. Regional
I
broker.
see
I
them.
like
I
that.
see them. The Mission 35 green. It looks awesome. The money green. So how are we doing, guys? So I mentioned, off the top, I said, I got a couple questions for you guys. So obviously, you've both been at this long term, huge amounts of success. I feel like there's so much negativity in both of our industries. I want to know, like, you guys read so much. You're constantly on top of what's going on in both of your industries. And I feel, sometimes you can walk into a real estate office or walk into a broker's office, and it's just like there's just like these punches of negativity. It's like, oh, did you see this? And rates are that, and doing this. It's like, what would be your advice and how you guys kind of stay positive and avoid those types of distractions of if you're constantly reading the news and it's all negative and what's going on, and it's not just for for you in our industry, but it's also for personal development, growth, and just feeling good. What do you guys do, and how do you do it? Because Conrad, you have such a positive outlook on
Well,
on everything, which is awesome.
Well,
It's
every
something I
market,
admire.
every market's got, you got to do a little deeper dive into the numbers, I think. Like every market's got winners and losers. When that article came out in the Spectator, it said 40% of Hamiltonians will be laid off or lose their jobs. So I said, okay, let's focus on the other 60. Yeah, and
Yes.
you know what? The other thing too is like we were all there yesterday, okay, and we all heard Michael Lee Chin, the famous Michael Lee Chin, and a business icon in Canada. And one of the weird things he said was that, I follow trends and I'm looking into the future, and demographics is pretty good. And I looked at people that were in their 30s, and I knew that they had to start to think of their kids and saving for their retirement. So I ended up buying wealth management firms. And then I ended up, my ownership in North American wealth management firms was somewhere in the between 20 and 30%,
It's
right?
crazy.
So, and he outperformed everybody because he knew that was happening. And now he's doing it with nuclear from a power perspective because, and Rob, Brian and I were just talking about AI needs a lot of power. So that kind of thing, clean energy, that kind of stuff, but also, medical, like for medical, nuclear. So that kind, so he's really looking into the future. And I think you can all look into the future, and we all know it. We can feel it. Look, economic uncertainty. I hear more divorces happening than I've ever heard before. So, there's that opportunity. There are people going into retirement homes. So you can't stop that train, no matter what
Right.
the noise
Yeah.
around it is. And you kind of, it's interesting. If you look at the numbers and, again, Toronto right now, anything detached on the ground, like the Toronto market, 70% is condos, right? So
Right.
that really swings the market. But if you start to dissect what's happening in detached, you're going to find out something like very, very interesting. In April, 44% of the detached property in Toronto, I'm talking like Toronto proper, not Mississauga, Toronto proper,
Right.
44% of them were above list.
Well,
You see, so people are shifting, right? There's
It's
this
that
shift.
property ladder, right? Like it's that property ladder. They're not building them anymore. So if you're
Ex-
you're you're in a condo and you're going up that property ladder, well, guess what? That's what's available.
Yeah.
And then in
yeah.
terms of like, I was thinking like in terms of demographics, I was like, okay, how does this relate to us, and how does it relate? All they've built in the last 10 years are these like micro condo shoebox
Yes.
condos that nobody wants to live in, and then you have these crazy dense townhouse populations beyond that, and then they're not building these detached homes anymore, which would be reflective of the stats that you just said. It's like
Yeah.
if you have a detached home and you put it up for sale in Toronto, you're gonna get action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the risk. Yeah. The risk of, that because there's such a small supply, there's no risk in buying a detached home because there's not this big competitive flow of units coming to the
True.
market, right? So,
Yeah, very true. And I think to your point, Phil, like when we saw Michael speak yesterday too, and what Conrad was just saying, he really does a great job of zooming out. Going
Big
into
time.
that yesterday, not one talk about tariffs, not one word mentioned about tariffs. Because you know what? That is an economic short term uncertainty. And when I say short term, I'm not saying a month or two, could be a year or two. But here is a man worth $1 billion looking 10 years, 15 years, 20 years into the future. And I think for all of us, you know, and the success comes from, I know Conrad's always playing chess, not checkers, right? And you're thinking 10 moves ahead. So the people that have that negative or this or that, it's like you're just reacting to
Yeah.
what happened right now. And you would never see, and Michael E. Chin, he always talked about the framework. You come from a framework and you make decisions from a
Yeah.
framework, and you're unemotional, right? You could get emotional every single day if you listen to the news and you react to the news. I'm going to buy a house today. I'm not going to buy a house today. The rate's going to go up. I should sell my house. Like, oh my God, you'd be in an insane asylum if you live that way, right? But I think if you zoom out, you have a longer term vision of home ownership again. Like, you're not going to buy a house, make $1 million in 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you do, good for you, but you shouldn't. You're going to be a homeowner for 10 years,
Yeah.
15 years, 20 years.
And you can weather the inconsistencies in the market, and that's
Yeah.
the key element. And then the other thing is you've got demographics is not on your side, aging. You know what I mean? You got to make these decisions, right? Like
Yeah.
it transcends what's going on. But I think Canadians are more strategic, and we've seen it in the local market, like with first time buyers, and you've talked about it, Brian. That first time buyer entering the market saying, you know what, I may not have a job because my sector's affected by tariffs. So they're being very strategic, getting in the market. And getting qualified and all that kind of stuff. You know, again, we talked about this thing with people in steel industry. Somebody just told me yesterday that somebody got declined. Bank, it was a guy in the steel industry, not unemployed, in the steel industry, got declined. Yeah, and
Well,
for no reason, right? Great
Conrad,
credit and all that kind of stuff.
this happened to me in 2023 when I bought my place in Burlington. They said you're a real estate agent. Your income is going to be highly affected by what's going to happen next year, and they declined me. And I go, guys, I've been doing
Phil,
this
I
for
think we
9 years.
I think we weren't working together then, Phil. That might have been the issue. Okay, just
But you go to a professional.
But I did, yeah. Like I can 100% relate to. I was like, are you guys kidding me? This is unbelievable.
Well,
So,
it's an interesting time. You know what? When it comes down to interest rates as well, too, we have our relationship managers from the lenders now saying, listen, call us every day because the risk appetite is changing every single day right now.
Like the stock market.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
they're saying, "Oh, yeah," and the banks will raise rates a little bit, drop rates a little bit. You know, we went from a week ago talking about, you know, they're not going to drop rates to now there's a 65% chance of a quarter point drop next week. Like, it's such a volatile market right now when it comes down to those things.
you know what? It's crazy times. Like we go through this whole COVID market.
Yeah.
And then we chase these interest rates up, and it's like, you know, and then we finally feel some type of normalcy. It's like, it's just, and that's just how it's like, oh my, you know, we can breathe.
You know
And then
what's funny too, and I just because you just said it right there, the whole COVID thing. It's funny to watch this unfold now, right? Because everybody who had a 2% interest rate, so much worry over nothing. Because you know what? 5 years later, what are you renewing at?
Yeah.
3.99.
Yeah.
4%. Like,
Yeah.
sure, that's double, but guess what? You paid off tens of thousands of dollars of principal. Like, you are like, there is no, like, really, if you were in trouble, you were in trouble because of not interest rates. You're in trouble because of over leverage, overspending, just typical types of things, unfortunately, right? But it is very funny to see that the rates did shoot up, but now, yes, they're higher, but not as much as everybody was concerned about.
But you know, Phil, you made a great point though about the market. This was going to be our breather because it started in October. Like, you got to look at the trend lines. The October unit sales, November, December were amazing. Even January beat last January 2024. So we were up over in October. We were up over 23. November up over 23. Okay, it was fantastic. Like, you could see this thing, and then I call it it's the crazy eight, because you know the two lines, they intersect, and then one goes down, the other one, and it finishes the eight, and that's what we're in. We're in that closed part of the eight, so it's going to be very interesting this quarter, because you see what the two lines, you know what I mean? It kind of goes like this, and then it kind of, you know. So we're in the crazy eight line, right?
Yeah.
Now it's going to be what happens in. Look, my prediction is, I hate to say it, but
Love it.
Carney's going to win. They're going to, and you know what's going to, they're going to wait till the bitter end. Right after a week or two in office, he's going to negotiate with Trump. It's all going to go away, and you're going to see this love of Carney. Because if they go too early, because if they want Carney to win, if Trump does legitimately,
He said he does.
and he does. So if that's legit, he ain't going to do nothing because, again, I don't know if you see the polls today. So 60% of Canadians say we want a prime minister that can negotiate with Trump. So he'll go a little longer. He solved a lot of issues yesterday. Like, come on, that guy got bitch slapped by the world. I hate to say it. We're gonna cut that part out. But anyway, like, come on. What was it? Was he negotiating? What was it? Then he backing off and the bond has gone ballistic, right?
Yeah.
Bond has gone ballistic in the US. Anyway, so everything that he wanted to have happen didn't. He pulled back 90 after 90 days, no one will remember. But Canada, he's waiting until after the election, 2-3 weeks, and then, oh my God, Carney saved all of us.
And then if that happens, I'm going to assume
hero.
you guys would all agree that's going to be so much certainty. The real estate market will probably have a huge people getting.
Don't go away this spring and get lots of listings if you're a realtor watching this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get lots of listings and don't go away this spring.
Yeah.
Sign those long contracts. And that's I agree. Like I agree with that prediction 100%. Like it kind of feels it's trending that way, doesn't it? Like and then are we going to have this real estate pop? Like, are we going to see the first appreciating market in a long time?
You know what? Consumer confidence has been in this shitter. Like, it's been really, really low. So if we get certainty, we get an office, Carney's in there and people want that. People feel good about it. Well, now when people feel good, they spend money. It's not rocket science, right? If you're up at the tables, you're at the casino and you want a little bit, you spend. So that's probably what's going to happen.
And again, I don't think we can define ourselves. Like, we're all in business on this call, right? And I don't define myself as red or blue or liberal or conservative. Like, I think I'm echoing Brian's sentiment. We got to go with what people in this country are looking for and what they feel will satisfy that need of comfort.
Yeah.
And then comfort leads to very much, confidence, comfort, confidence. And that helps the economy more than anything else that you can possibly imagine. So, I think we're headed towards something very interesting. And I think you're right. We might see this market where we're going to see things inching up in certain categories for sure.
Yeah. Okay, one more question before I go. So I got this perspective on buyers right now. And like we went from like buyers being afraid to lose to like what else is out there? Right? Like, and that's what I find right now. Inventory's kind of low. And we're, I've been working with some buyers and our team's been working with some buyers where it's like they're ready to go, they're qualified, everything's right, but it's like they'll see a house, they'll like it, but they don't love, and it's just like there's just constant waiting period for what else is out there. Is that what you're finding too in terms of the buying market?
I think you're right. It is that we're seeing appointments now too. It just shifted where it was very certain. We had the lowest amount of appointments per sale. Now it's kind of everybody's just kind of got this cautious optimism, let's say, and just kind of doing it. I think they need something to push them. Like at the end of the day, they need something dramatic. Like I think if I was a realtor today and yesterday with the the pullback on 90 days for tariffs, I'd be yelling that from the rooftop, saying, "Look, guys, this thing might go away, but relatively quickly."
Yeah,
like it's just you might see this go away. Like you're getting all these CEOs saying, we can't manufacture iPhones in the US. It's not even possible. The skill set, it would take us decades and decades. So now the realism is coming into the market. I think now it's a matter of the smart money. Q1, January, February, first time buyers got in because they were worried about the risk of maybe not getting financing. Now the next wave is going to be, well, listen, the price today and the price in May and June and July might be a very different thing. And I will tell you this, I think it will go all the way through to the summer. So don't go away spring and summer. Enjoy the Masters this weekend because then after you can stay home on your couch, watch the Masters. Because after this, believe me, after the election, you'll see a lot of certainty. You'll see some comfort and confidence.
Yeah.
Certainty, comfort, and confidence.
Well put. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, guys. We'll leave it there.
Thanks,
How long have we been on for? That's it. I think we're past our time. No?
Oh, yeah, we're there. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, you got something more important to do, right, Phil?
Yeah. No,
I got to go list some properties.
Never. Thanks for doing this, guys. I appreciate it. Nice to see both of you again. We'll see you guys next week, okay?
Great
awesome
stuff. Thanks, Phil. Thank you, buddy. Thanks.
Cheers, man.